It's May 10, 1940. The British War Cabinet is in chaos. France is crumbling under the Nazi assault, and the country's fate hangs by a thread. Winston Churchill, newly Prime Minister, stands alone against calls for negotiation and appeasement. How did this man, with so many personal setbacks and doubts, become the unyielding rock who refused to surrender? Let's unravel the secret journey of the boy who became the Lion of London. Churchill wasn't always the indomitable figure we admire. His early life was riddled with failures and embarrassing moments that could have ended it all, and yet they forged his iron will. Young Winston Churchill's school years were anything but smooth. At Harrow, he was often bullied and labeled an underachiever, barely scraping by academically. His complicated relationship with his distant father and neglectful nanny complicated things further. One letter reveals young Winston's desperate need to prove himself, not just to family, but to the world. Think of resilience like an ancient tree battered by relentless storms yet still standing tall. Churchill's early setbacks, whether failed exams or political embarrassments, didn't break him. They layered strength. Each rejection was a gust that twisted his trunk but didn't uproot him. This mental armor was invisible but unbreakable, cultivated long before he faced D-Day or Blitz. When Churchill lost his first bid for Parliament, he didn't fold. Instead, these failures lit a fire under him. He famously said, "Success is not final, failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts." The surprising insight. Many see Churchill as born for greatness, but he was forged by failure, learning to rise harder and smarter every time. In a world begging for peace, Churchill's voice was a stubborn, lonely thunderclap. Why did he stand so firmly against the tide of appeasement, even when everyone, inside and outside government, thought he was wrong? In the 1930s, Churchill repeatedly warned of Hitler's intentions, but Britain's leaders and public were desperate to avoid another war. At the 1938 Munich Agreement, while most celebrated peace in our time, Churchill called it a total and unmitigated defeat. The transcripts show how isolated he was, but also how prescient. His warnings were dismissed until the bombs began falling in 1940. Imagine a lone lighthouse keeper defying the calm seas mask to signal an oncoming storm while town residents ignore the warnings to hold their festivals. Churchill's dissent was his beacon, shining brightly amid dangerous complacency. This mechanism, the courage to speak truth unpopular, forces a society to confront uncomfortable realities, even when the consensus is blissful denial. Ultimately, Churchill's unwavering stand against appeasement was what rallied Britain to resist Nazism. His defiant speeches and "we shall never surrender" stance transformed public morale into steel-clad resolve. Here's the insight. One person refusing to bow to consensus can change the course of history and rally a nation's spirit. When London's skies blackened with bombs and defeat loomed, Churchill became more than a politician. He was the unyielding spirit lighting a dark world. What made him so unbreakable under fire? One tense night at 10 Downing Street, Churchill confronted his war cabinet. Some wanted to negotiate with Hitler, others believed Britain's defeat was inevitable. Yet Churchill's calm, steady voice sliced through panic. Transcripts reveal his strategic mind, weighing grim odds but refusing surrender. His presence alone steadied nerves, showing leadership is sometimes about anchoring others amid chaos. Churchill's speeches weren't just rousing words, they were psychological artillery. His iconic "We shall fight on the beaches" speech was broadcast to millions, a blend of raw honesty and fierce hope. It was like an emotional jolt, a virtual boot camp for the British public spirit, turning fear into disciplined courage. This use of narrative as a weapon redefined wartime morale. Behind closed doors, Churchill's leadership was less about grand gestures and more about attentive listening and tough decisions. He pored over intelligence reports late into the night, read personal letters from warfront soldiers, and maintained detailed war diaries. The insight? True leadership often hides not in speeches, but in the quiet grind of relentless preparation and empathy. Remember that evening in May 1940 when Churchill stood alone against defeat? That man wasn't born perfect. He was shaped by struggle, fearless honesty, and relentless preparation. The next time you face a storm, channel a bit of Churchill. Stand firm, question the consensus, and do the hard mental work no one sees. Try this. Next challenge, write down your fears, then plan one bold step forward. It just might change your destiny. Subscribe for more book summaries like this one.